Cool, thanks. How's it, everybody? Great having you on this call. So we have a guest tonight. Her name is Michelle van Tonder. Michelle will be on just now, and so she's going to talk a little bit about cryptocurrency as an investment option. And so before I bring her on, I'm just going to spend a bit of time resetting the context. Most of you have been in the room either with an Awaken Your Financial Genius program, or some of you were in the room when I hosted Robert, and so I'm going to take you through and just reset for those of you that need reminding, and for those of you that haven't been through it, just reset a little bit of context around creating financial freedom, creating your financial future. So in terms of where you're at the moment, I'm just going to ask you to type in, what are one or two key things that you think are holding you back, inhibiting you, getting in the way of you creating a different financial future? So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds or so. Just type in, just into the chat box, just what are one or two things that you might have come up with that you think are getting in the way. You'll just do that for me quickly. Thanks. Okay, good. So thank you, Delian. Yeah, knowing my numbers and the story it tells. So, one of the things about understanding finances, becoming financially free, really is the journey to become financially literate. So that's the first step, is financial literacy. So literacy is the understanding and being able to read and write numbers in terms of finance. And then once you are literate, being able to decipher what is the story it tells, because your financial statement always tells a story. So thank you, Delian. So Mari says, fear of making mistakes. Yeah, I mean, how many of you could connect with that? That, for a lot of people, you want to invest, but you're scared to make a mistake. So what are some of the key reasons why you might be scared of making a mistake? Louis says, well, that ties in pretty well. Fear of the unknown, not knowing what to do next. Fear of letting people down. Okay, good. So it comes into a fear. So the unknown, what should I invest in? Where should I invest? So for most people, if you went to school, when you went to school, that the whole deal around being told is, a lot of people are waiting to be told what to do. So how many of you are hoping that you go to a program, you get on a program, a course or a webinar like this, and someone is going to tell you what to do? How many of you have that expectation? So get on and be told what to do. Anyone have that expectation? So, I just learning from the likes of Blair Singer, Robert Kier, hanging around Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Advisors, is many people want to be told. The question is does that really help us? And our key game is to help teach you by enabling you to be able to tell yourself what to be able to do. So, yeah, fear of making mistakes. William says debt. William, yeah, debt. So how many of you have a fear of getting into debt? How many of you don't know how to leverage debt? How many of you have been taught, maybe your conditioned growing up response was, don't go into debt. Debt's not a good thing. So the fear of getting into debt holds us back. Well, Kenny McElroy teaches pretty simply that debt is money, and being able to leverage the right kind of debt is one of the ways that the rich get richer and the poor and the middle class stay poor, because really the poor and the middle class do what with debt? They use debt often to buy the wrong things. They don't use debt to generate money. They use debt to generate liabilities. So, yeah. So the fear of getting into wrong partnerships. Yeah. How many of you are scared of getting into a wrong partnership? Partnering with people who you're not sure that they know what they're doing. Well, in nearly 30 years of business, I've had some great partnerships and I've had some shocking partnerships. But every partnership that I've been in, I've learned something from. Some of them have done me in and ripped me off, and some of them have really assisted me, helped me, and I've grown from it. So, that thing of fear, whether it's a fear of making mistakes, whether it's a fear of getting into debt, whether it's a fear of the unknown, whether it's a fear of getting into wrong partnerships, when it comes to becoming financially free, part of it is being able to get through that fear. And that really starts with this word that I'm about to type in called awareness. And those of you that have been to Awaken Your Financial Genius, either the intro program or you're on the 10-week program or done the 10-week program, you'll know that the first thing we start off with is awareness. So this webinar really is about helping people become aware. Where are you? What are you aware of? Because, the opposite of awareness is ignorance. So if you're not aware, then you are ignorant. If you're ignorant, there's very little that you can do. So this is about becoming aware. So any other areas that as we're talking that are coming up in your mind that you think might be stopping you from moving to the next level when it comes to creating a level of financial freedom and becoming freer financially? I know for me, for years, I had to deal with the conditioning of school, and I suppose maybe that's a good place for me to start, is really here, which is I suppose this bit here. So can you all see that? Martin, if you just give me a little bit of feedback. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. So the question is, if you've ever heard Robert speak, if you heard him speak while he was here over the last month, the first question is, what did school teach you about money? And if you're like me, pretty much zero, nothing. Maybe taught me how to balance my checkbook. I didn't have a checkbook when I was at school, so I wasn't actually that interested. What it did teach me is it taught me these things. It taught me, go to get a job. Well, let me ask you, did they teach you at school to go get a job? Did they teach you economics? Did they teach you how to balance a checkbook? Did they encourage you and teach you how to save money? Did they teach you that that your house is an asset? Did they teach you, as William put in, to get out of debt and stay out of debt? Did they teach you pay taxes? Did they teach you to invest in the stock market? So just give me an indication of how many of you on this call, just by typing in yes, maybe yes, me, just type in yes, me to give me an indication if you can connect with that's what really we got taught at school. I know that was my understanding when I saw this. Let me see how many of you on this call connect with that same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of you so far. Who else? 7. Okay, so if that's what we were taught at school, is that the art of becoming financially free? So So, you know, in terms of money, you know, one of the things that school teaches us is become, you know, back is save money. And I found this fascinating when Robert was teaching this, is that where's the US dollar going? And you know, what of the US dollar versus its purchasing power? And a lot of people are focused on make money. Why? Because school taught you, go to school, get a great job, make money, and save it. So the question is, if you were taught to save money, when you look at a graph like this, what does it tell you? Without me even saying it, what comes up? You see, the more money you hold, does that mean you're in a good position or a bad position? For me, when I had this was a stark realization. When I saw this the first time, a couple of years ago with Robert Kiyosaki, there was a stark realization on what I realized about money. So just as you see this, type in what's coming up in your mind. Now, as you're typing up, this is one of the reasons why, well, if you call them opportunities or developments, yeah, Louis says money is becoming worthless. One of the reasons is that governments print money. So they just, when they need more, they can print it, which means the volume of money way exceeds anything else. You know, in the early 70s, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, there was nothing that connected the US dollar to anything else. So Harry says what we were taught was what government and big business want us to know to their benefit, not ours. So when you go back to, when you look at the value of money, should you be hoarding money or should you be looking at different options in order to take the investment that you're putting in day in and day out in order to create wealth? Ray says, why work hard for something that's not even worth the time, effort, and energy spent? Mari says, saving money will not be worth anything. Working hard and saving money is a waste. Okay, good. So working hard is a good thing. Having a good work ethic in order to apply yourself is a good thing, isn't it? But what are you working for? What are you working? Instead of putting our focus on hoarding and saving money, there's a number of other options that we can use to put it into. And that's hence one of the reasons why Michelle van Tonder will join us later on, so that she's going to talk a little bit around cryptocurrencies and the options of cryptocurrencies. That's also the reason why financial education is so critical, so that when you have real financial education, the reality is this, is you understand where that money is going to go. So 3 critical areas around finance is income, expenses, assets, liabilities, and the 2 most important words, cash and flow. So, you know, every week when we have this talk on this financial webinar, I think I say the 2 most important words are cash and flow. So what is happening to your cash? Where is it going? And do you think, when I go back to this, that the cash that you're creating should be flowing into savings or not? Where should it be flowing? Because what is happening to the value of your money if it's just going into savings? What are the other options? So part of financial literacy really is, or financial literacy is really understanding this. What is your income statement? Because that is your report card. Now, my observation running, the Awaken Your Financial Genius program, running cash flow games, teaching people how to create financial freedom. My observation is that most people do not understand income, money out, but they don't have a personal income statement. So I'm going to ask you, how many of you have your own personal? You don't have to, just ask yourself, do I really have a personal income statement? Do I really know what my income is, what my expenses are? Do I know my assets and my liabilities? Do I really understand what a liability is or not? Do I really understand what an asset is? And that is becoming financially literate, financially astute. So the 6 most important words of real financial education: income, expense, asset, liabilities, and then the 2 most important, cash flow. So as Kiyosaki teaches, income, expenses, asset, and liabilities, when it comes to the English language, are nouns. Cash flow is a verb. And really a verb is about what? What type of word is a verb? It's a doing word. Thank you, Marlon. So cash flow is the doing. What is your cash flow doing? It's action. Where is it moving? Cash always flows. The question I want to ask you tonight is, where is your cash flowing? What is your cash flowing into or out of? For most people, cash is flowing in the wrong direction, into the wrong stuff. Pretty simply, because they lack financial education. Because when we go back to what school taught us, go to school, get a job, save money, balance your checkbook, put it into a retirement annuity so that you're going to be okay when you retire. Now, we're honest with ourselves, it's not really working for many people, is it? So, as we said, this is your report card. So income, expenses, assets, liabilities, and cash flow. So in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert teaches. Poor Dad said, get a high-paying job. Rich Dad said, the rich don't work for money. The question I'm going to ask you is, what are you working for? So, yes, we go out to generate income. But in generating that income, where are you putting that income? What are you doing with that income? And that is a critical question. That's a critical question to ask. So in terms of that income, is that income moving into an asset to generate more money so that you can operate like the rich, get money to work for you? Or is that moving into liabilities so that money is being taken straight out of your pocket? So pretty simply, assets put money in your pocket, like this diagram. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. Now, most of you on this call will know that. The question is, knowing it and doing it and changing the habits that we have, that is the real journey. And that comes from financial literacy and financial intelligence. So any questions so far? Any questions, comments? Just even if you just want to give a thumbs up or something like that, if you're getting value out of this evening session. Great. So Louis asks, what does it mean to have taken the dollar off the gold standard? So pretty simply, Louis, in the 1970s or before 1970, the gold standard, it all current by the same value in gold, which meant it had a control to it. When it was taken off the gold standard, when it was taken off the gold standard, it meant that there was nothing holding the government to control. If that makes sense. So what it allowed governments to do was start printing their own money, because it was based on nothing. Before, you had to hold the value of gold in relation to the amount of money that you had in circulation. Does that make sense? So well, what we do now is if you go back to that that first slide that I showed, governments are just printing money. So go next door to Zimbabwe. That's what happened. Is they need more money, so they just print it. Today the problem is you don't see money. If you go back, if you go to when I lived in Zimbabwe, you'd carry a shopping basket to go full of notes to go do your groceries, and it will buy you the same size shopping flipping basket that you walked in. Some of you may remember seeing the pictures in countries where hyperinflation took off and money was absolutely worthless. So the problem is today we don't see that because I'll ask you, how many of you day to day actually operate in cash? For most people, you don't see the money. So money is no longer something that we physically see, or very rarely physically see. So governments all around the world have printed money. US is in over 19 trillion in debt. If you look at how much money it had 30 years ago compared to what it has now, dramatically increased the amount of money, so the value, that's why the value is lost. When there's an oversupply of something and it's based on nothing, it loses its value. South Africa is the same all around the world. Does that make sense? Anyone like to comment on that? Any comments? So Harry says you have to remember the notes we used today, actually promissory notes saying the bearer will pay on demand. That pay was supposed to be in gold. Very good, Harry. Thank you. Yeah. So it used to be based before 1972 on gold. In other words, if you had $100, it was equivalent to $100 in gold that you could get on demand. Now that no longer exists because it was taken off the gold standard. Thank you, Harry. So you guys got it? You got it, Louis? So assets versus liabilities. So at school we taught that our house that we live in is an asset. In reality, it's not. It's a liability because it takes money out of your pocket every month. Yes, you might be able to sell it, generate some money out of it, that sort of thing. But for most people, they don't generate income out of it every month. They live in it. There's rates and taxes, so it's a liability. Our car is a liability. So what assets are you generating? So this webinar that we do is about helping people generate assets. People have been taught, get a job. Poor mindset of people, get a job, earn some money, put it into expenses, the flow goes up. Middle class people generally get a job, put it into expenses and liabilities, big cars, big houses, all that sort of stuff, get into debt, into the wrong type of debt. As William said, one of the fears is getting into debt. Well, many people, 95% of the world get into debt around expenses and liabilities. The rich get into debt around assets because they leverage debt to create assets. So the four real asset classes: business, real estate, paper, and commodity. Now, for me personally, my passion is building and creating businesses to generate cash flow. By working with Robert Kiyosaki, I'm learning more and more around real estate and commodities. Personally, I don't do a lot around paper, stocks, shares, that type of stuff. So in terms of getting involved in assets, what asset class are you going to look at? Now, many people ask, tell me what the best one is. The best advice I heard from Robert and the Rich Dad Advisors is, which one are you prepared to study and which one excites you? because that's the one then that you want to get into. So he says, I'm in real estate because I love real estate. He's in gold and silver because he understands gold and silver. He's not in paper, you know. So in terms of that, that is about becoming financially literate. That is about understanding what it is that you want to be able to create. Does that make sense? So yeah, so Harry says, go via the one you know. Yeah, the one that you prepare to study, the one that interests you, and the one that you get excited about. Okay, so in terms of this, really, this is what happens. We get a job. Our biggest expense is taxes, and that's really why the middle class and the poor get poorer. So we get a job, pay taxes, goes out to the government. We get a job, we get taught that we need to save money and invest it into some form of investment platform, like we call it a retirement annuity or a pension fund. In the US, it's a 401k or an IRA. It's a passive. It's called a passive asset. Most middle class people invest in passive assets where they have no control over it. Take their money, put it in, give it to somebody else, you know, who invests in like here in the JSC, in the US and Wall Street, invest in stocks and shares. And we hope that when we get to 65, they've done a good job. But how many of you realize that most people, when you don't know what to do with your money, somebody else does, and generally they do what they want to do with your money. And then the other thing that middle class and poor do is they put their liability, they put their money straight into a liability. That is a house, a car, and that flow goes straight up to the bank. So for me, this is a really great visual of what happens to 95% of the world's money. Into expenses, taxes go to government, pensions go to Wall Street, and liabilities go to the bank. And hence, we end up without any funding to allow us to become free, and we spend the rest of our life working. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like the life that I want to live. So liabilities if you understand this, liabilities take money from your pocket, assets put money in your pocket. So the game is, when you earn money, can you put it into assets? Now, I love this saying. It's not how much you make, it's what you do with how much you make. Most people are doing the wrong. Can I just ask if you're on unmute, please mute. Thanks. The question is, most people are just doing the wrong stuff with the money they earn. And they think that the more they earn, the easier life's going to become. Well, when it comes to behaviors repeat continuously until you change that behavior. To change that behavior, you've got to change the way you think. To change the way you think, you've got to work on you and become aware. So if you double the amount of money you're earning and your flow is like this, you're just going to put more money into that flow. If you change the way you think and you earn the same amount of money and start becoming more financially literate and astute, you'll start putting into this pattern, you start changing your financial future. So this is pretty interesting. Children's prospects of earning more than their parents have fallen from 90% to 50% over the past 50 years. Now, for me, I have two kids, two daughters, and this just reaffirmed the importance of teaching them what school doesn't teach them. Your kids, how are you equipping them for the future? Yeah, so Helena says, retired, can't borrow money, need more info about index tracker, can't do property, rather property funds. You know, I'm going to make a statement, Helena, is that, yes, I understand where you're at. The question is, is that really where you're at, or is that what you know? My question to you would be, what is it that you don't know? What is it that you could do to leverage to money doesn't only come from the bank. Where do you find opportunities, and how do you leverage other people's money? And that is what financial literacy is about. So around that comment, for me, I always ask people this: is what we know really the truth? It's our truth right now. Or once we stop becoming aware of something else, how many of you realize that truth changes? So in terms of that, I am hoping that Michelle van Tonder is going to be on the call, and she's going to talk a little bit to us about cryptocurrency as an option when it comes to generating and building assets. If you can just open up your mic for me.
Hi,
welcome
Barry,
to the webinar.
Thank you.
Good on you.
Excellent, very good.
So just by way of introduction, Marlon introduced Michelle briefly earlier. So I've known Michelle probably for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Through various businesses that we've been involved in, and about 18 months ago, a little bit shorter than that, Michelle came into a program called Master Facilitator, and through that joined our Blessing and Training Academy as one of our teachers and trainers. And she has been a John Maxwell facilitator and trainer for over a decade. And through that process, when I started working with Michelle, and Michelle was heavily in debt, wasn't generating the money that she should have been generating for the qualifications that she had. In the last 18 months, Michelle has dramatically turned that around, through various options. The first was shifting the way she thinks, because just now I talked about, if you want to change the results you get, you got to change the way you behave. Michelle spent a lot of time, effort, energy, money working, and continues to do that, working on shifting the way she thinks about money, how to make money, and then from there, how to make money for you. And through that process, got involved in cryptocurrencies, and has been able to become an absolute specialist in being able to leverage cryptocurrency. So, Michelle, that gives a very brief overview of your last 18 months. But just for a couple of minutes, just share with us, where were you and where are you now in terms of money?
Awesome, Barry. Thank you very much. And at the time when I had absolutely really was hunting for how you're going to pay for the bread and milk, because we couldn't afford anything else to eat, basically. At that point in time, I remember coming to you and saying, you will be my coach, you will be my mentor. And I had no clue how I was going to do that, Barry, like zero clue. I had like nothing. I mean, and I found some money, not under the pillow, but I really did what I had to do, got myself into Sales Explosion, and literally transformed my life in just what I learned there at Sales Explosion. Learned the power of selling, learned the power of asking questions versus telling, which was my modus operandi. And then signed up and said, right, now you're going to be my coach. I had to come back home to my husband and say, listen, I've spent another good couple, it was quite a lot of money. And he was like, where are you going to get this? I said, don't worry, I don't know how, but if we can work out what's going on between my ears. He was very, very, very upset with me. But I still went down the path. And I think, Barry, if I remember correctly, it was the March that I started, April, 2 years back, and by the end of that year, I'd literally tripled my income. and my husband still was not employed at that time, so we were really battling to get our ends together. And I didn't, just because I think my outlook and the way I was thinking, because I did Little Voice Mastery with you, and realized that my biggest problem was what I was telling myself every single day, and it had nothing actually to do with money, Barry. Nothing to do with money whatsoever. It had everything to do how I was thinking.
Michelle, at that stage, your first focus was to change the way you think, but to learn how to generate income, wasn't it?
Those two hand in hand.
So right then, it was about, how do I make more money to be able to cover where I'm at the moment in order to move through the process. So some of you on this call, that part of the process of becoming financially free, first of all, is learning how to generate income, learning how to create income so that either it can pull you from the position. And that was the first step that we really worked on for 6 to 12 months, wasn't it?
We did. We worked hand on hand. You tapped into having me think completely different about my gifts, my skills, my talents. Sorry, I didn't get into cryptos at that particular time at all. We were just focusing on what gifts God had given me, and you brought that out. You were very tough on me. You were very tough on me. You didn't let me off the hook, which I'm extremely grateful for today. And yes, it was. We put some realizing that I actually can make money with the gifts that I've been given. We tapped into that. We paid off our debt. We literally changed things completely, because I changed. I then put my husband on your sales explosion. Hallelujah, he came, and he had a transformation at that point in time. And the two of us, our mindsets, when we get up in the morning, when we do things, we're thinking so differently, because we just know. Also, when we do spiral backwards, Barry, it doesn't take us that long to get back out again, because we know what questions to ask ourselves. And that was one of the biggest gifts, I think, because I was a real, as Ant would say, yummy yummer bowl. I could feel sorry for myself. Darlene will know what I've just said. That was the end of my Afrikaans for all the Afrikaans people out there. And I knew how to do that. So creating wealth, it doesn't matter what your avenue or your field is. If you do not know how to think about who you are as an individual and your gifts and your talents, that you've got to tap into them, so that you're actually a value to society when you wake up in the morning and go out there. Barry, you're just not going to make money.
And that Michelle came from, and folks, if you really understand this piece, that was, first of all, it was about awareness. The second piece was about working on what was between Michelle's mindset, reconditioning it, reprogramming it to allow it to be able to use those skills and talents in a very different way. So we actually did very little work around skills and talents. She had the skills and talents. What we did is we repositioned those skills and talents, but she worked a lot on shifting her mindset. So through the process of being able to master her little voice, really we talked about behaviors and mindsets often on this webinar. And that was the key focus. So personal development. So getting her in a position to be the person she needed to be able to leverage what she was going to do. Not give her a whole lot of information so that she knew what to do. Because how many of you realize, most of you have a lot of information. Most of you know what to do. But what's holding you back, and that's why I asked the question right in the beginning, is things like fear, knowledge, debt, that sort of stuff. So that's mindset. So part of the process is shifting your mindset. So that's one of the reasons why we developed the 10-week program, Awaken Your Financial Genius, is exactly that, is 10 weeks to teach people how to shift this so they create an awareness more than anything else. So Michelle, you became very aware of who you were being, didn't you?
100%. And very also, it was I really honestly came to get an ABC of what I must do to make money. And and then when we started with Little Voice Master, it was like kind of like, that's not what I want to do. I need to get out there and make money. You really don't understand where I'm at, and I'm literally pinching from Peter to pay Paul to actually be here. And I think after the first session, I think in fact, for those of you who don't know me, I mean, I think every time I saw Barry, I was just crying. My life was that hopeless. And one of the things I do, Barry, you tapped onto it now, was personal development, and that is that Little Voice Mastery book. Once a week, I focus on one of those techniques. I still do that. And the other day, you fall back into yummy bowl every now and again. And so I went and found the one that says, okay, what are you thinking? How are you thinking? Is that your reality? Is it really, or are you just perceiving it to be that way? And that's where I just spent that week on that one. So it's very important to understand that if you're not thinking about yourself as an individual, you said it just now, the being. When I saw that be do have, and I thought, I came from a very wealthy family, so I've cruised through life. I've been given everything. I cruised through life until it got to a stage where that no longer was possible. Then suddenly, I had to realize that I had to actually work on me, and that was the first time. I knew the personal growth, read lots of books, did John Maxwell, all those kind of things. But until I physically sat and did Little Voice Mastery, and reading the book and sitting in front of you are two different things. People can try and shortcut it, but I'm going to tell you that you're not going to absorb the thing. And I think at the end of the day, I was so desperate to change that I made it my reality to actually do every bit of homework that you gave me. I mean, I didn't buck. If you told me that I had to make phone calls, standing on my right leg, twiddling my left thumb, I did that exactly. So that
you hated it, but you did it.
I hated it, but I did it. You're quite right.
I think, Michelle, you've been in personal development. But up until that point, a lot of your personal development was intellectualized, wasn't it?
100%, Barry. You couldn't have said it better than that. It was all intellectual.
So if you guys get this, because of how we've been through school teaches us that knowledge is what we know, as in intellectualized knowledge. But in order to create the results, that knowledge has got to become who we are. In terms of that has to become our being. And that was really the shift with Michelle in the first 12 months, is that knowledge became, she started applying it and her being changed.
Yeah.
Zach, would you agree with that?
Oh, I would totally. And every time I'd ask Barry, I mean, I remember phoning you all the way from Zimbabwe, and I had a problem that I had to say, Barry, this is this. And I expected an ABC of saying, okay, this is how you do it. And it was like, okay, Michelle, if you knew the answer, what would it be? And I'm like, dude, I don't want to know that statement. And I think Marilise can laugh, Lynn can laugh, Samuel, everybody who knows you will know that that's what you say to us. And we're like, no, I don't want that. I need the ABC now. Time is short. And you just kept quiet. And I learned those two powerful things, that even now, if I don't know what to do, I ask myself the question, okay, Michelle, if you did know what to do, what would you do? And it processes things so much quicker. I agree, Marilise. Yes, if you did know what to do, that's a great question. I mean, I can hear Barry talking to me daily, 24/7. But Barry, yes. So
that's it's funny you say ABC. Sorry, but it's funny you say, because Helene's just typed, what is the ABC to make money? So Helene, I heard this from Kiyosaki when he was last out here. He goes, look, there's millions of ways to get to financial heaven. But for everybody, it's about creating the right mindset and then finding the right way. So, the simplicity or simply making money, it for me comes in two parts. One, sales equals income. You have to learn how to sell. If you cannot sell, you can't make money. You want to go raise capital, you better be able to sell. You want to sell an idea, you better, or launch an idea, you better be able to sell. You want to get yourself out of debt, get yourself moving to the next level, whatever it is, you have to be able to sell. So the first thing is sales equals income. The second thing is you have to be able to become financially literate and increase your financial intelligence. So those are the two core functions of creating wealth and making more money. The first thing that we worked with you, Michelle, was on sales. You learned how to sell. You started generating income to the extent that in order to fund her fuel from week to week, what she did is she carried books in the back of her car and sold them for cash when she was doing her calls so that she could pay for her to get through what she was doing as a means to create money. She did whatever it took legally, ethically, and morally to move to the next level. You started creating income. You started getting yourself on a level footing. And then the next step was you started learning how to create wealth.
Absolutely.
And that journey was really into cryptocurrency, wasn't it?
Mostly, well, I didn't realize it would actually be cryptos. I just fell in love with the whole concept of cryptocurrencies. And one of the things that I picked up somewhere along the line was, and it was a philosophy, I always take my 10% and I tithe irrespective of what my income is, and I give that to my church. So I didn't have a lot of money to get into, because our debt was in the millions, and I didn't have money to start anywhere else. So what I did then said was, I really used to phone Barry. In fact, Barry will be so proud of me. I found 10 books yesterday underneath my desk, and I thought, yay, I can make some money on Saturday. So
excellent.
And I thought, oh, Shem, I'll give these away at $50. I thought, no ways, I'm halving my profit. So I'm sold them at 100. So I'm still on that mindset.
Let me explain. If you understand what Michelle's just said, and I've always been like this, the opportunity to make money. Do you want to find the opportunity to make money? Now, Michelle's going to sell 10 books at $100 profit each. She's going to make 1,000 rand. Now, in relation to where she is financially, that's not a massive amount of money. However, her mindset is, there's an opportunity to make money. When money's on the table, can I take it? Now, that was not your mindset 24 months ago, was it?
Definitely wasn't my mindset. It was like, oh, these damn books, what must I do with them? Really. And I was like, I saw them as an obstacle. And, just tapping into, most people, we don't have money to start. And this is the biggest problem. And I remember reading Kim Kiyosaki's book many years ago, and the one thing, and when we came out of Financial Genius, Robert said it as well, and it hit home for me. We're all trying to start too big instead of trying to start small, and we all want to make this millions and whatever it is up front. But that 1,000 rand that I'm going to make, if I don't spend it, I can go and put it into a cryptocurrency. To start, the process is $25 a month. $25 is $350. One of the greatest things that I learned on the Awaken Your Financial Genius is that we're not accounting for all our cents. Our cents are accounting for us, and therefore we can't find our money because we're not looking to see what we can do with our money, and our money is telling us what we must do. So that $350, I'll just go and have lunch with my friends today, or instead of saying, I'm not going to have lunch with my friends today, I can have a cup of coffee with them, but I can take $350 and start in cryptos, or start in putting it aside into something. It could be buying a small stock and share on whatever it is that you're into. You want to save money for your first deposit on your first property, you've got to save.
You just said an important thing. Is whatever your mode that you become interested in and choose, once you have a vehicle that you start being interested in, it starts allowing you to plan where to move your money. When you do not know where you're going to move money, money will move where you habitually move it. And 100%. And the other thing is this: if you don't know what to do, any people out there that do know what to do with your money. So for you, Michelle, you started generating some cash, finding some spare cash, and you started rechanneling it into cryptos. Now, cryptos really are so, and while you were rechanneling it, did you give it to somebody else, or did you start educating yourself on cryptocurrency?
That was my biggest lesson that I learned. I never gave 1 cent to someone else. I educated myself on the entities. I used some of the money first to go to training courses in the entity that I wanted to go in, and then started using the money to go into. And that's why I actually, to be honest with you, right now to this day, have not lost a cent, because I never went into trading. Because it didn't resonate with me. Now, people have made money in trading, and I'm unhappy for them, but it didn't resonate with me, and my mindset towards trading was negative, which means I would have lost my money. And so I stayed away from it. But that was my choice. I have bought some cryptos and I hold them, especially now. That was one of the most amazing things I learned on Awakening Your Financial Genius, was that how does Robert puts it, where if Edgar's, for example, has a sale, we'll rush off to Edgar's and we'll buy stuff that we don't need on our credit cards because it's on special. And yet here, let's say, for example, cryptocurrencies go down and everybody's saying, oh, it's a bad market, all the rest of it. I'm saying, dude, I put money aside. I'm going to the sale. And for me, that transformation of, again, it goes back to Barry. If I'd not done Little Voice Mastery with and changed my mindset and started doing all these courses of educating myself with financial intelligence, I would never have been able to do this.
Excellent. So and that thought can go into any area of the asset, can go into any area. You know, often I'll tell a story of a lady that I knew who she had a little tomato business. And what she used to do, she had a job. She would take a percentage of her money, give it to her daughter who would sell tomatoes during the week. That is an asset. Yes, it's a very small asset, and a lot of us are not prepared to start there. But she had the starting of a rich mindset. So what are you doing? And that's really how Michelle started getting into cryptos. So Michelle, if someone wanted to get into cryptocurrency, what would you advise them to? How would you advise them to get started?
The very first thing I'm going to say is, do not jump into it too quickly. Sit down and do your homework. Be educated in the area and learn and who's the, because there's so many different ways that you can get into it and lose a lot of money. And I know so many of my friends that have lost so much because they just got into the wrong companies, that kind of thing. So you got to do your research on your companies, research on who you're going to partner with. Is there training involved in that ongoing training? If there isn't ongoing training, stay away from it. And then start small, test it out. Is this for you? I wouldn't jump in with, if you jump in with, let's say, for example, 100,000 Rand, you know what, if you're going to lose it in your wrong place, then you're going to, it's just a bad decision. If you're going to do that, rather go in with maybe 10,000 Rand, start small. Even for people, I mean, I've got so many ladies, Barry, that just cannot afford that kind of thing. And I've got them on a program where it's 350 Rand a month and we're building it up. And, the whole program is, it's, cryptocurrencies, in anything, actually. If you get in it for a quick buck, you're going to lose your money. You've got to look at it as a long-term plan. Can you say that again? Because what I see, there's so much, and it's not only in cryptos, but it's with the advent of social media and everything. If I wasn't more aware, my look on crypto would be, this is a get rich, get quick scheme on what a lot of people are talking about. 100%, absolutely, and they're pitching it that way, and it's not the way to do it. And in anything, as you said as well, it's whatever you get into, you must resonate with it. So do your homework with it. For example, I mean, I have got properties. I've got a property portfolio now as well. But Barry, I don't resonate with property. I don't. It's a nightmare to me. And then yet you've got Robert Kiyosaki making millions with that. 100%. So make sure you do your homework. Sit and talk to people. Go and be educated in the environment. Learn about the different ways that you can get in, because there's trading, there's buying and holding, and there's mining of cryptos. Then within each of those entities, there's different avenues as well. And if you don't know what you're doing, if, for example, I go and I buy, okay, let's take a perfect example. Your Bitcoin in December was really around about between 15 and 19,000, and you bought then because you saw, hey, great, it's going to go. Today it's sitting at 6,000. And if you're not in this for the long term, you've lost money. And so if you don't know how to stick with it and understand it's a long term, it's a Warren Buffett strategy. You go and do it for 5 years, don't touch it. It's the same as if you go and read Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Business of the 21st Century. He also says that type of business, if you're going to get into it, you get into it for a 5-year plan before you say it doesn't work.
So it's like many investment opportunities. So what I heard you say is you can trade, you can buy and sell, and you can mine. So in terms of property, you can flip properties. So flipping properties is the same as, I should imagine, buying and selling or trading cryptos, yes?
100%. You've got to know, you've got to go and look into it. And for example, flipping properties is not for Robert, but if flipping properties, I was sitting at his conference and there's a guy sitting at the table and all he does is flip properties. Hey, it works for him. It's different things. But you've got to understand that when you do your homework, you must have peace of mind in what you're resonating with.
Yeah. Okay, good. So if you're getting that, so for me, watching Michelle over the last 24 months is, if you get this piece, she's become a student of what she does.
Absolutely.
So she studies it, and one of the ways she studies it is she teaches it.
Yeah.
So you've also become a teacher of crypto, haven't you?
I have, definitely, and which means I have to learn it. And by no means am I a financial advisor in any way whatsoever. All I can say is, here's the different options. This is what happens when you trade. This is what happens when you buy and hold. This is what happens when you're mining. Here's the details, which one resonates best with you. And then I can guide you in the direction that you want to go. Personally, my personal preference is mining. It's low risk. I'm so risk adverse. And that's one of the things that people that are risk adverse normally lose the most money because they do stupid things. I learned that on Financial Genius as well. And I realized so I like to go for things that are going to nice and steady, the tortoise and the hare. And Barry, I like to make sure that people do their homework on that one.
So you have to take a risk. The question is, if you follow some of the advice that Michelle's talked about tonight, you can mitigate that risk. So if you study, if you know as much as the person who you're giving your money to. The problem often, and I think where middle class people fall into the trap, they don't study. Yeah. They go to somebody, they give them the money, and they say, and the guy goes, "I'll make you 50% in the next 12 months." They believe it, and that doesn't always pan out. Whereas in terms of cryptos, in terms of property, in terms of paper assets, in terms of commodities, you want to trade gold and silver. The process is exactly the same. Sure, you can buy and sell gold and silver, or you can hold gold and silver. So there are many. I'll say it again. Robert taught this. There are many, many ways to get to financial heaven. Which way is going to suit you? So in terms of where Michelle is, her way right now has been cryptocurrency. She's a student of it. She's a teacher of it. And she takes people down the process without promising them this massive result. But if you're astute, like anything, you can create those results. So it comes down to, what is it that you want to, finishing off, are there any sort of final things that you'd like to say just to wrap it up?
Just answering Louis' question there, he says that his little voice is playing huge at the moment, and is it not too late to get into the Bitcoin crypto game? Absolutely not. And it is at a stage where, as in everything, Robert says, go and buy property when people are trying to get rid of their properties, because it's going to change and it's going to move. But again, Louis, it goes back to, what do you want to get out of anything in life? So if it's cryptos, let's look and go and investigate it. But at the end of the day, is that the vehicle you want to go? Because what do you want to get ultimately out of it? And the same with property, the same with everything. And I would say, generally speaking, I suppose it's too late to get into anything, if that's the way way that we look at it.
Well, it's too late to start a business because there's millions of businesses in the country.
100%.
It's too late to go to property because some of the big property developers have, Louis, there's two sides to every coin. My advice is stand on the edge and learn on both sides, because while it might be too late, it's also not too late, because there's duality as long as you learn, study, and understand. So it's in network marketing, that's one of the biggest things that come up in network marketing. Oh, the only way you can make money in network marketing is you have to get in the beginning. Now that's a myth. But if your little voice is going to hold you there, then it's your truth. So
that's right.
The question is, Louis, if crypto is for you, then take Michelle's advice, study it, understand it, move. If you're the cautious type of person, move cautiously. Find a good partner. Find someone who you can partner with, and then work through that process. And like anything, it is not the lotto. You're not buying a ticket. You're learning how to invest. You're creating an asset, if that's what you want to create, and start working through that process.
Yeah.
So just guys, by just typing into the box, did you get value out of? You just. So those of you that would like to connect with Michelle, just send an email to info@uncoveringgreatness, and we'll set it up from there. So if you just send an email, attention Barry or Mari, just and then we'll set up that you can run from there and connect with her from there. Okay. So excellent, Michelle. So Michelle, as always, great having you on. Awesome to have you on the team, and yeah, just well done. I know what your last 12, 24 months has been, and guys, for me, when you understand, if you understand, all of us have a story. The question is, are you allowing your story to define you, or are you going to change and define the story? It's pretty simple. If you want to create a change, you have to change the story. If you can't change the story, well, get up. And that's part of this process, is what is it that you need to, who do you need to become? Who do you need to be in order to allow you to have, so that you can create the story that you want to create? And Michelle, compared to where you were 24 months ago. Would that be fair?
Very much so. Thank you for that. Absolutely.
So, guys, thank you to Michelle for coming on. And next week we'll have a sales webinar. So around various options on sales and marketing and generating leads, closing deals, making more money. So how many of you can see these two go hand in hand? The better you learn how to sell, the better the income you generate. It allows you to be able to move into the financial side as you change it. So just thank you to Michelle. Thank you to all of you guys. Those of you that are interested in understanding more about Awaken Your Financial Genius, Marlon and Maury will put the link up for how to get more information around Awaken Your Financial Genius. Those of you that are interested in learning how to sell, they will also put up a couple of links so that you can come to one of our free events and get an idea of what we teach around sales. So just thank you guys for being on this call tonight. I'm going to hand back to Marlon. Thanks, Michelle, for your valuable input. And we will see you guys next week. You will be in for a treat. I may or may not be on this call. It depends. I'll be flying. I might have just landed, but I'll be flying to Sydney to be in an event with Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Advisors called Masters of Wealth, which I'm super excited for. Myself, my wife, and my 2 daughters are going to be in Sydney on that stage talking about financial freedom and why it's important to teach the whole family to become financially free, which is really, really cool. So, Marlon, back to you, guy. Back to you. Thanks for hosting us as always. Folks, those are the links. Really look forward to seeing you in one of our rooms pretty soon. So, thanks very much.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Michelle. That was great.
Back to you, Marlon.
Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. So, thank you very much, Michelle. That was great. That was great info. I didn't know that much about crypto, and I feel a bit more. I feel happier about maybe exploring it a little bit. So, thank you very much for that. But housekeeping, everybody. The recording will be on the Uncovering Greatness site, so you can review, and please share. Feel free to share the links. I know there's a lot of people. I mean, crypto is the buzzword at the moment. So, and I think the way that Barry teaches and the way that the Uncovering Greatness team sort of teaches this is that to be responsible and to really research it. And if you can share that with others instead of having this quick turnaround of money or this quick fix to riches or whatever, we can do it in an educated fashion. So everyone have a good evening. You'll find the links. You'll get them via email as well. Have a good evening and see you next week. Good evening.